So as part of the COVID-19 classes, I've been teaching quite a lot of breathing practice. So most of you were coming when we were doing that at the studio still. We were still allowed to gather there. And I'm still doing them now, and think I've had the virus, and finding them a kind of very helpful way to at least feel, I sense that they're helping my lungs to kind of start working better again. And as always in yoga, it's really helpful to start with simple breath awareness. And especially if we're a bit new to the idea of breath awareness or detailed breath awareness, you might be used to meditating on the flow of your breath at the tip of your nose, for example. That might be quite familiar, but you might not be super familiar with the anatomy of your breathing, the felt sense of it, more than, how does it work and what's a diaphragm and all that. That's not so important. Some people find that helpful too. But it's more the experience of breathing and recognizing our breathing patterns, and where perhaps we're not using our breathing capacity. Often we breathe more strongly in one of our lungs, sometimes the other lungs kind of a little bit lazy. Some of us have a very vertical breathing pattern, you could call it, where you use your chest more to breathe, the lungs, the higher part of the lungs up in the upper chest. And some of us have what we could call a very horizontal breathing pattern, where your chest doesn't move very much, but your belly moves a lot more. Some of us breathe more at the front or more at the back. A lot of us kind of forget or don't know perhaps how far our lungs extend downwards in the back of the body. So at the front they stop pretty much at the base of your ribs, and at the back they go further down into the lower back area. So those are the sorts of things we'll explore a bit experientially through the felt sense of the body and the breath. So you can begin, whether you're sitting or lying, by placing your hands on and around your lower ribs. So your hands might straddle your lower ribs. So your thumbs might be just feeling your lowest ribs. And then your hands, your fingers are on the top part of your abdomen above the navel. And your elbows can be quite wide apart at that point, and either resting on the floor or just kind of settling. If you're sitting, they might be just down by your side, and your hands a little bit closer together. See what's comfortable. So it's helpful for breathing practice that our shoulders are relaxed. Shoulder and neck muscles are also involved with breathing. Lots of muscles are involved with breathing as a kind of assisting muscles, assisting the diaphragm, assisting the rib cage to move and the lungs to expand and contract. So checking that now. How are your shoulders? How are your head and neck? Doing anything you need to do or you could do to be even more comfortable in that upper part of your torso. And then noticing how your breathing is right now. So hopefully through your sense of touch you've got a bit of an awareness of your lower ribs and your belly and how things are moving. And you might realize that when we start to notice the breath, or the breath is even mentioned, our breathing changes. And we You might not have consciously thought, I'm going to breathe more deeply or more slowly, but that's often what happens. Noticing that. And then with your fingers, just following the line of your lower ribs to the base of your breastbone. Sternum is the Latin word. Centre there, don't press too hard because the base of the sternum is quite sensitive. You can just feel that curve in the bones and then follow the curve of your rib cage down to the side, noticing how it can get soft below where the waist is. You might be able to go around the back a bit as well, feeling part of your back ribs. Feeling that shape. And then bringing your hands to your upper chest, around the collarbone, so your fingertips can straddle your collarbones. And again, noticing your breath for a moment. If you're lying down, you can make sure your elbows are resting on the ground again to release your shoulders. And if you're sitting, your elbows by your side. And then noticing what you can feel now when you breathe underneath your hands, and also anywhere else in the torso. And then massaging a little bit around the collarbones and the top of the shoulders. You can do one hand at a time, if that feels easier. Noticing where the collarbone goes to the upper arm, the muscles just above, the upper trapezius muscles. A lot of structure there, quite strong muscles there from lifting activities and having our arms forwards for activities. If you've just done one side so far, go to the other side. Don't really feel it, just curious about how this upper part of your torso feels. Whilst we're doing this, we're also potentially releasing these muscles, which are very active most of the day when we're doing things. So it's nice if they get a chance to relax. And then we'll release our arms and place them on the lower belly, so nice and low down, below the navel. Maybe your little fingers on your hip crease. And then feeling your breath again, and notice where the attention goes. What you can feel underneath your hands and perhaps inside your pelvis. How much movement is there? And then taking your arms down by your side. And we'll do some simple arm movements which you can make really quite gentle. I'll give a few options, so depending on how you are and what you're noticing as you go along, you can adapt and adjust. So you can do this seated as well. I'm just going to demonstrate. Straight lying down. So if you're lying down, making sure you've got space behind you to potentially take your arms all the way up above your head, back towards the ground behind you. And I'm going to breathe in and raise our arms, and I'm going to start by demoing halfway, so I'm just going halfway to a vertical position and breathing out, going back down, keeping the shoulders relaxed on the floor, inhaling up, exhaling down, and we could imagine that we're breathing a sense of lightness, airiness into the arms. That might help them to feel a little lighter on lifting. So inhaling up, exhaling down, and then if you feel comfortable, a little more energetic, you could take your arms further back, inhaling up, exhaling down, and noticing there's a point. For me, it's about here where I feel gravity's pull is really starting to kick in, so that's and where there's more effort in controlling the movement, keeping it smooth and even. Like about here, my arms basically just want to drop. So noticing that point, because you might want to not go beyond that point if you're conserving energy. If you're going further back, there'll be a bit more opening in the chest area. Upper chest, front ribs, breathing in, going up. You might feel an increased curve in your lower back. It takes us towards a back bend. And then when you next take your arms back, you can see if it's comfortable to rest your head in your hands. If you've got shoulder issues, you could do one hand. And again, noticing your breathing, we'll do a little back arch. So on the in-breath, I'm arching my back, sort of pushing my belly up towards the ceiling, and on the out-breath, I'm bringing it down. If your arms need to go out to the side, that's also fine, by the way, for now. But this helps to open the ribs a little bit on the side and the front. So inhaling, arching the back, sort of pushing the belly up, and exhaling down and contracting. You might feel your head move in your hands as the wave of that movement goes up and down your spine. I'm making the movement fairly big, so you can hopefully see what I'm doing. You can make it a lot smaller if you want to. Notice how it feels. I'd like you to follow kind of ease and pleasantness in your body, what feels pleasant. And this is stretching and strengthening some of your breathing muscles. And then you could continue with just this if you're happy doing this and want to conserve energy. Or you can bring in a little mini sit-up. We're just going to do a few, up to 6. On the in-breath, we're still going to arch our back. And then on the out-breath, bringing the elbows towards the head and curling up. Just a little breathing in, coming back down, having a little rest there. On the exhale, releasing your shoulders. then the next inhale, arching. Exhale, flattening, bringing your elbows in and curling up. Breathing in, coming back down, fully relaxing the arms and shoulders. The hands can stay behind your head. And then on the next in-breath, arching again. Out-breath, flattening and contracting up. In-breath down, release. So those of you who have done this kind of work with me before, you'll know it's from somatic work, Feldenkrais inspired. The complete relaxing between movements is just as important as the contraction. So we move our muscles through the full range. So once we've relaxed and we start again, and then we can contract up and gradually, smoothly, evenly release to full rest. And we can do one more. Done that final one. Bring your arms down, little distance between your arms and your body. You can see what it would be like to straighten your legs. If you've got a small space like me, you might need to shuffle around a bit. Relaxation pose. Again, fully relaxing, also finding ease in your hips and your lower back. So if this isn't comfortable with your legs extended, then do bend your knees again. Allowing your body to fully relax for a few moments. And then I'm going to spread our arms out a little bit. Again, if you're a bit limited for space or there's furniture in the way, it doesn't have to be completely symmetrical. We can be a bit obsessed in yoga about complete symmetry, and it's probably just a dream because our bodies just don't work like that. We've got our dominant side and a whole history of our body of maybe injuries and activities we've done which were not symmetrical things, like playing certain instruments or tennis or golf. So don't worry if you're sort of having to work around a table leg or something, but spreading out like a sort of starfish, and then extending all your limbs. First you can sort of do a one by one. So where can my right arm reach to? Where can my left arm reach to? Where can my right foot reach to? My left foot. Wriggling around a bit. So if you're really creating as much distance as you can between your extremities. And then spreading them all out at once. So you're taking up as much space as you can on the floor. You can extend your fingers as well. And then we can relax that. And then bringing our limbs in, bringing our legs in, drawing them in, bringing the arms in. And then bringing our knees in towards our chest. And here the gentler, less energy version is to just bring your knees in towards you on an exhale and away from you on an inhale. Also good if you've got neck issues, this one. And then if you want the more energetic version, which is strengthening for the neck, but just be gentle if you've got any neck problems, is to exhale and bring your head towards your knees. Inhale again, come completely back down. Make sure your head is fully resting, everything relaxed. Wait for another exhale and then curl up into a little ball again. And coming back down, fully giving the weight of your head to the floor before you do this one more time. And then releasing the head back down. Bringing your feet down. If you do that slowly with your lower back flat against the floor, you'll be using your core, bent knees. And then taking your arms out to the side, shoulder level-ish. Again, might need to negotiate a bit with the space of your room. And then rolling your head from side to side, just letting the head roll. And you can let the sideways roll coincide with an out breath, recentering on the in breath. We're releasing some of the neck muscles. There's neck muscles that go down the sides, attached to the collarbones, and obviously those upper trapezius muscles again as well, from the neck to the shoulders. So they play a role in breathing. And centering your head, noticing how you are. We're going to take our legs up towards the ceiling, and you could hold your thighs, the back of your thighs. You could bend your knees more than I have. I have them a little bit bent. And then rotating your ankles, your feet, wriggling your toes, waking up your lower body. Bending your knees again, and once more you can stabilize your back towards or against the floor. As you exhale and lower your bent legs to the floor, you'll be using your core. Great. And then rolling onto one side. Again, if you need a bit of a rest, feel free to stay there for as long as you like. Feeling your breath for a couple of breaths. Lying on your side. How does your breath feel lying on your side? Going to come up to sitting for a moment. So this is from a breathing program I'm doing from a book called Breathe, and I'll probably introduce a few more of the exercises in it over the coming weeks. And this one is called the rock and roll breath, and you might find it easy to do sitting on a chair, so feel free to do that. I'm doing it on the floor usually, and you could do it technically in any seated pose, but you need to be able to kind of move forwards. So if you sit cross-legged or with your legs out in front, you need to have some room to kind of bend forwards just a little bit, so the angle can be as sort of small as this. and you need to be able to go slightly backwards. So whatever you're sitting on, you need a bit of a range similar to this to move. And then when we go forwards, we're going to really relax our bellies. Can't see my belly very well probably with the light in the room, but so the in-breath is forward, so it's a bit contrary to a lot of things we do in yoga where we tend to breathe out when going forwards. So breathe in on the forwards, letting the belly sort of hang loose. Nice loose belly. And then we're going back on the exhale and feeling our tummy muscles contract. So naturally when we lean back, they'll kick in anyway, stop us falling backwards. And we're also going to breathe in and out through our mouth, which again is quite unusual in yoga. We don't do that very much. We do in Tibetan yoga, and I found it's just really relaxes my throat. So I've noticed there's been a bit of tension in my throat actually, and I don't know if that's to do with the crisis or maybe I do it all the time. I think also a lot of yogis who do ujjayi breathing, the ocean breath, which you might have heard of, that makes a sort of slight constriction in the throat. It can become very habitual and actually create a habit of holding our throat a bit tight. So it's been quite interesting and helpful to breathe in and out through my mouth for this, which is the recommendation in the book. So we're going to do a few of these, and if you get uncomfortable, just stop, as always with these breathing things. So we're going to bend forwards a little on the in-breath, really allow the belly to hang loose and push forwards. And breathe out on the exhale, going backwards. Breathing through our mouths. And there's no need to breathe particularly slowly or to pause between breaths. You might be going faster than me or a bit slower. Just look at the screen, see if everyone looks all right. So the movement emphasizes this natural thing of the belly moving forwards, downwards as the diaphragm goes down on the inhale, and everything contracting back on the exhale. And the first few days I did this, it did feel actually a little bit like hard work. Now I've been doing it for 10 days or so, this particular one. It's quite easy now. And as always, if anything hurts, make the movement smaller, make it gentler. Even down to just visualizing it is beneficial. So after the next out breath, to upright, allow your breath to return to normal. Good. So it can be nice to put your screen a bit higher if you're standing or changing position, so that you can look straight ahead. So thinking about this breathing and increasing our breathing capacity and kind of lung vitality, it is related often to posture. So one of the things I've been talking about with colleagues is how, though doing a yoga class on screen, one of the things is that you might, if your device is low down, that you might be looking down and sort of doing that texting position, and that will restrict you a bit here and have an impact on your lungs at the back. So good posture is helpful, good upright posture. And also if our eyes get tired from the screen work, to just going to look beyond the screen into your space using peripheral vision. So that idea of, we look at our hands, you can do this with me if you like. You can look at your thumbs or your fingertips and then keep them both in your view. And at some point, you can't do it by going from side to side. You've just got to open your vision to what we call peripheral vision. You should still be able to see your fingertips wriggle. And that's kind of a very different way of using our eyes and our gaze from looking at the screen. So you can go back into that anytime once you've figured out what we're doing. So we'll start with our feet firmly planted on the ground and aware of our posture. So it's helpful to feel the center of our back. I'm going to straighten up through the back. And keeping the front relaxed. So sense that when we straighten up, we're not going into a back bend, so we're not going this far. We're keeping the space between the ribs and the hips actually just neutral, so we're not closing it and we're not opening it. So you can put your hands here, like I have my hands here. The thumbs are on my lower ribs. Stand into the light a bit more, and my fingertips can just about feel the tops of my hip bones. So that space, if we go forwards, becomes smaller. If we go backwards, it becomes bigger. So finding your neutral there. And then that sense of lengthening up through the back and quite relaxed at the front. And then you can let your arms go by your side. And then on the in-breath, we're going to take our arms up. And like before, you can do a very small movement, maybe to here, inhaling up, exhaling down. Kind of a very easy wing flap. Or you can do a bigger one and go up and be a bit like an albatross or a soaring eagle. Inhaling up and exhaling down. And if you want, you can also bend your knees on the exhale down and come onto tiptoes on the inhale up. So again, a range there of gentle challenge. Tiptoes, we're obviously also working on balance then. Strengthening our calves. The higher we take our arms, the more we're working the shoulder muscles. And then when you next come down, then coming back to neutral mountain pose. And we'll do a side stretch, so they're very much part of the repertoire. If you have shoulder issues, you can simply do this one, letting your hands sort of slide down your hips. And if your shoulders are okay, you can take an in-breath and exhale, coming over. Breathing in, coming back down, and then the other side. And if it's comfortable to, you can breathe a little more deeply, so breathing in exhaling fully. And your in-breath can deepen. Exhale down. So a little more depth, a bit more volume in your in-breath from a full out-breath. And you might notice there's some sort of tightness along the side, maybe more so on one side than the other. It might have to do with your dominant hand. Great, and then letting that go. And we'll take a standing forward bend, which can already give us a bit more awareness of the breath at the back, because we'll be folding over and the belly will be more constricted. Of course, if you've got a back issue, high blood pressure, headache, sinus thing going on, you can go less far down, just go there. Or sit on a chair and slide your hands down to your knees. So we can exhale down, take a full exhale, and then a deep inhale, and notice where you can feel the inhale. And doing that 2 or 3 times. If you're comfortable staying down, you can stay down, or you can come up and down. Lovely. And then coming back up. So the important thing with the deep breathing practices is to keep aware of how it's making you feel. So if you start to feel a bit lightheaded, you're going towards hyperventilating, and then all you do is you just stop doing the deep breathing, let your breath sort itself out. We'll do a little loose twist. We do this one a lot, and it is just really helpful again for the ribs, and again aware of your whole posture, that your head is above your hips. You can look around, soft gaze, look around your room with your eyes. If you get dizzy, look straight ahead in soft peripheral vision. And again here you can kind of move very slowly, as if you're moving through warm water, or you can move a bit faster, and if you've got room, let your arms come up. Just be aware of not knocking into anything or knocking anything over in your house. Slowing down and stopping, and shaking your arms and shoulders out a bit, and this can come from the shoulders. So again, that is kind of beginning to release muscles around the top. You might also feel that around your shoulder blades. And then a little shoulder blade activation and opening of the front of the chest is to see if you can draw your shoulder blades towards each other by bringing your shoulders backwards. Your arms will start to go slightly behind you. And I like to imagine that my inner shoulder blade edges are trying to get together at my spine, like they're trying to meet up, or to scratch and itch there, as if your shoulder blades are trying to scratch and itch in the center of your back. So you can wriggle around a bit, and then that actively opens the front, stimulates the back. Lovely. Releasing that, and interlacing our fingers and stretching forwards, taking a couple of full exhales and deep in-breaths. Noticing what's happening at the back of your lungs. Where can you feel this breath? And then letting that go, letting your arms just swing a little. Good. A bit more water. And for the next movement, we're going to open our hips a little bit. So thinking about the lower belly breathing. And so if you have a yoga block to hand, or some books, or a step near you, that's helpful. And maybe something to hold on to the wall or a chair. I'm going to get my chair next to me. And I'll tip my screen to show you what I'm doing with my feet. So one yoga block is enough. I had 1.5 there, but it's not really necessary. So I'm going to stand on the block with one foot. Not quite the right angle. Work. And loosely hold on to the chair, or you can balance without. And I'm going to let my right leg, in my case probably looks like my left leg, but it's my right, swing forwards and back. So I'm allowing my leg to really release, like a kind of traction thing, and letting it swing backwards and forwards. So you can do it without a block, but you're going to be brushing the floor more. You don't so easily let go of your hip joint, as it were. And the idea is, if I show you sideways actually as well, is to keep the leg quite straight. These are climbing trousers, good for yoga. They have extra space at the knee, so it might look as if my knee is bent, but it's not really. My leg is straight, so I'm doing this and not this. So there's a difference there. Keeping my leg extended. Another reason why it helps to elevate the standing leg. Loosening around the hip. Quite a few of these now, so you can change sides. The other leg. Practicing balance if you wish, and if your balance is a little bit challenging, mine is on this leg, you could very lightly keep a finger or the hand very lightly on the wall or on the chair, so you're not leaning on it, but it's there, and that's often enough to help with the balance. Letting that leg swing from the hip, not from the knee, from the hip. Keeping the knee relatively straight, not locking the knee. Lovely, and then we'll step down if you are on a pile of books or a block. We're going to do a little warrior sequence, focusing on our breathing, opening the hips and working around the shoulders and chest. So, show you my feet again. You can start off just deciding on your warrior stride. So we often work with a fairly short one, so it could be this, Scaravelli style. I'm only stepping forwards the width of my purple mat, and my feet are fairly parallel. Or you can go longer, and then you might need to turn your back foot out a little bit. Just see what's comfortable. We want to be facing forwards, the front knee a little bit bent, and the back heel firmly planted. So if your foot's turned out too far, it tends to start to feel awkward around your knee to bring your shoulders forwards. So your feet are as parallel as possible, I would say. So pretty good idea to have your toes, your knees and your hips facing more or less in the same direction. So I've got my left foot forwards, and if you're mirroring me, that will be your right. And we can just move the front knee bending and straightening it a couple of times, feeling into the back leg hip and the calf, hopefully feeling a little bit of opening there. And then bending the front knee and imagining your tailbone has a tail attached to it still, and that's just dropping straight down. So we're not so much tucking the tail under, but we're letting it go straight down. And then we can bring the hands just in front of the lower belly again, the navel. And then on an in-breath, taking the arms up and out, breathing out, turning the palms down and completing the circle. I'm locking into my plant, so I'm just going to change my position slightly. And breathing in, a little pause, turning and completing down. Doing that once more, breathing in, pause, turn, down and out, finishing at the belly. And then changing sides, so it's a little bit like warrior one. And we start with this sense of groundedness, tailbone hanging down as it were. And then taking a breath in, following the midline, and feeling like we're extending up and then out. Exhale down. 3 times. Those little pauses in the movement at the end of the exhale, end of the inhale, and can help us with our breathing capacity, and breathing control. After the third one, stepping the feet side by side again. And then taking your right foot forwards again, or whichever side you didn't do in the last repetition. And checking, maybe you can make your stride length a little longer. My hip and calf have started to release a bit, so I can be a bit further apart now with my legs. Notice how it is for you. And then first we'll just take our arms back again, as if we want our shoulder blades to meet up again, drawing shoulders back, taking a couple of breaths there. And then releasing the arms, letting them swing, and then taking the arms up and out, and if it's comfortable, leaving them there out and taking a few breaths there. If it's not so comfortable, you could go here with your hands. That might feel gentler, or lower your arms. Very open warrior. And then releasing that, and once more with the right foot forwards. I mean your left probably, the other side. And then drawing your arms back, so it's kind of upwards, pushing through the back foot, taking our gaze up. It doesn't have to be super far. Couple of breaths. And release. And then taking the arms up and out and lifting the chest. This one as an alternative, or arms lower. And then releasing the arms, stepping back, having a bit of a wriggle and a shake out. And then we'll go towards the relaxation. I'd quite like to spend a few breaths in a forward bend of some sort. So you could opt for another standing forward bend, or child pose, or downward dog actually is good as well, or sitting on a chair. So probably giving you too much choice now. I have choice stress, but on a chair it's quite nice to do. It's kind of like a seated child pose, and it can really open up the back of the lungs, the awareness of how far your lungs go down. If child pose isn't comfortable, this is for your knees or your ankles or your toes. A chair-based one is quite nice. And of course, downward dog, pose of the child. Also nice ways to breathe differently by changing the position of our bodies. Downward dog, we've got quite a nice opportunity again to breathe in and let the belly hang loose. Feel it sort of suck back towards the spine on the exhale. Child pose, sort of similar to downward dog, but less strong on the exhale. Feeling your breathing in the back of your body. Taking our attention there often already stimulates it. And then combined with the posture, you get a really nice kind of redirection of the breath. And the forward bends also help us to start to let go into a more relaxing phase of the class. So when you're ready now, you can move to a relaxation pose. You can lie on your back, your front, your side, sit in a relaxed, supported way. Take your pick. Take a little moment to get organized. If you're doing this on video, you can pause, of course, and get settled and then press play again. Getting settled, and as we often do, we can start by emphasizing a kind of heaviness in the body, the natural heaviness of the body, the weight of the body, which gravity gently holds down onto the surface of the earth. Feel the bones, the weight of our flesh. And remembering we're 70% or so water, which is quite heavy too. A sense of all that earthiness, wateriness and fleshiness finding support and rest on the ground. Maybe just wriggling around a little bit, or rolling your head, or bending your knees, or hugging your knees and having a little rock and roll to feel the ground and to allow yourself to become heavy. And that felt sense of taking a load off and giving it to the earth, as it were, can be really conducive to relaxation. And we also have this association perhaps with heaviness being something weighty on our mind. So noticing how you relate to heaviness. Burden might be an association, or tiredness. A lot of yoga nidra relaxations, deep relaxations, also work with lightness. So I would like to do a little bit of that today. We're not doing a full nidra, but alongside the weightiness, there can be lightness. And this is also the nature of the world and reality. Without heaviness, there can be no lightness, and without lightness, heaviness doesn't exist. If there's no dark, then light becomes meaningless, and so on. And it's because of gravity and our weight that we can also develop a springiness to come back up. And mentally, this is to do with resilience too, that there's always going to be dark times. In Buddhism, we talk about the first noble truth, that there is suffering in the world. And that's certainly true today. And the Buddha also said, well, there's a way that we can work with that. We can choose how we respond. So we can't change, I've mentioned before, the surface of the world. There's going to be thorns and hot lava streams and things that are going to hurt if we step on them. And we can wear shoes. So that's the metaphor. And that's really about awareness and choice. So choosing to fully relax in that moment, choosing to let our weight be taken. And then at the same time, we can bring to mind something light. You might like to imagine a feather, a little white downy feather floating around in a breeze. One of the big birds I mentioned earlier with our movements, an albatross or an eagle soaring high up in the sky. A leaf or a paper boat floating on a stream. Dandelion, fluffy seeds being blown into the air. The lightness of light, sunbeams, rainbows. Linking your mind to the idea of light, lightness. And then feeling the air element in your body, alongside the flesh and the bones and the water. Each breath gives you the lightness of air. Notice how your rib cage opens as you breathe in. It becomes light and spacious and airy. And then seeing if you can have both a sense of your weighty, stable connection with earth and gravity, and a feeling, an embodiment of being light. Light as a feather, the ability to soar up like a bird, to float very lightly through life. And if you feel like lightness or a bit more of a spring in your step, literally or metaphorically, might be useful in the coming days or week, you might find some inspiration in the words of Aldous Huxley, who wrote, "It's dark because you're trying too hard. Lightly, child, lightly. Learn to do everything lightly. Yes, feel lightly even though you're feeling deeply. Just lightly let things happen and lightly cope with them." I was so preposterously serious in those days. Lightly, lightly. It's the best advice ever given to me. So, throw away your baggage and go forward. There are quicksands all around you, sucking at your feet, trying to suck you down into fear and self-pity and despair. That's why you must walk so lightly. Lightly, my darling. As we begin to move out of relaxation, you can be aware of the lightness of space all around you. Perhaps open your eyes. Imagine your body finding light and ease. And then when you're ready, you can let your fingers move very lightly as if you're tickling the air. Let your toes tickle the air. If there's an urge to stretch and take a deep breath or a yawn, go for it. And if there's an urge to rest a bit longer, because that's what you need to be able to feel lighter later, please do that too.